But we do need to hear you so that the court reporter can take everything down. So, you have been subpoenaed by the defense.
I can't even really.
Maybe that. You've been subpoenaed by the defense to answer certain questions about being with George Floyd on May 25th, 2020, what you observed about his physical condition at various points in Cup Foods, and basically a time frame on when you were with him that day and what you observed about him. Specifically, I think focusing mostly on the time in Cup Foods, but then also in the motor vehicle before the police came to the window.
Yep.
Okay? And you're willing to answer those questions about George Floyd? Okay. The parties also have the right to ask you, in order to test whether your perceptions are accurate, on whether you were under the influence of drugs or alcohol that day. Are you willing to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
I or him?
Are you willing to answer the question whether you were under the influence of
yes.
drugs or alcohol?
Yes, I was not.
Okay. We're not going to be eliciting an opinion from you whether George Floyd was under the influence, just for how he looked.
Okay.
And how he acted.
Yeah.
But not an opinion about whether he was under the influence.
Okay.
But the lawyers, in order to make sure that the jury knows whether to consider your evidence and how much weight to give it, is whether you were sober or under the influence. Are you willing to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. Now you understand, I don't find that those questions would expose you to criminal liability, but you do have a Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate yourself. Do you need time to talk to a lawyer? Or? And I have limited the lawyers to those topics so as not to get anything that might tend to incriminate you that you're not expecting. Okay?
Yep.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Do you need time to talk to a lawyer? Okay, ready to go then?
Yes.
All right. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the jury back in, and then I'm going to have you stand up so I can swear you in, and then we'll go from there. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, great. Let's bring in the jury. And you can just remain seated when the jury comes in.
So we've been listening there, the judge talking to Shawanda Hill. She was with George Floyd, and the questions will be, what were her observations of how George Floyd looked and how he acted? So let's listen in.
I'll ask you to stand to be sworn, but just follow my directions, you'll be fine. You can fix it. And nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right, have a seat, please. And before we begin, we're going to have you state your full name, spelling each of your names.
Shawanda, Shawanda, Renee, Renee, Hill, Hill.
Mr. Nelson?
Good morning, Ms. Hill.
Hi.
Thank you for being here with us today. I just have a few questions about May 25th of 2020. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
On that date, were you at the Cup Foods located in Minneapolis?
Yes. Yes.
Did you run into anybody that you knew while you were there?
Yes, George Floyd.
And while you were at the Cup Foods, or in the Cup Foods, did you have an opportunity to observe Mr. Floyd's behavior, demeanor, things of that nature?
Yes.
How would you describe Mr. Floyd's behavior while inside of the Cup Foods?
Happy, normal, talking, alert.
Did did he offer to give you a ride?
Yes.
A ride to wherever it was
My
you were
house.
going? And so did you go to his car with him?
Yes.
Once you got into the car, did you observe any changes to his demeanor?
When we were in the car for the first 8 minutes, we were talking and, hugging, talking about what we were about to do. And then I got a phone call. And so I was on the phone for the rest of the time until the little boys came to the car. He fell asleep at that time.
So at some point during the course of the time that you were in the car with Mr. Floyd, Floyd suddenly fell asleep, right?
Yes.
And the phone call you received, was that from your daughter?
Yes.
And so you were talking with your daughter during that time?
Yes.
And you described, would you agree that at some point, you said some little boys, are those employees of the
Yes.
store?
Sorry.
That's okay. The store employees came and approached the car, correct?
Yes.
And at that point, Mr. Floyd suddenly fell asleep?
He was already asleep.
He was already sleeping?
Yes. When they came to the car. And when they came there, I tried to wake him up. They tried to wake him up. I tried to wake him up over and over. And his friend tried to wake him up. And he woke up. Then he'll say something. He made a little gesture, and nodded back off.
Okay.
He did that a couple times.
Was that a kind of a sudden change from how you observed him in the store to the car?
Yes, but he already told me in the store he was tired because he had been working.
There is an objection.
Hold on. Objection, grounds?
Meeting, yes, the answer is stricken.
Overruled.
And so at some point, did the store clerks leave the side of the car?
Yes, I told him that I would wake him up and send him in there because I didn't have the money on me. I used my money. So.
Okay. And did you continue to try to rouse
Yes.
Mr. Floyd?
Wait till it finishes the questions so that we don't overlap, okay? Because the court reporter is taking everything down, it's really hard.
The overlap.
Okay.
Okay? Thanks.
Thank you. So did you continue to try to awaken Mr. Floyd?
Yes, I tried a couple times, but then, I just let it go for a minute because I was back on the phone and
All right.
then I had the rest of it.
And did the store clerks come back to the car a second time?
No.
And were you, at some point, the police officers approached the car?
Yes.
And Mr. Floyd was aroused by the police?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Bank.
Good morning, Ms. Hill. I just have a couple follow-up questions for you, okay?
Yes.
So during the period that you were with Mr. Floyd in the store, he was, you said he was alert,
Yes.
friendly,
Yes.
talkative,
Happy talking. Yes.
and
Back. Hugging.
yeah. And when you went out to the store, he walked by himself out to the store?
Yes.
In fact, did a little dance as he went out to the car?
Yes.
We just have to make sure that you wait
Yes.
till the question's done, so we aren't talking over each other, okay? I know it's a hard habit to break, but we just have to be careful with that, okay? And when you got back to the car, at some point he nodded off.
Yes.
But you were able to wake him, correct?
Yes.
And talk to him.
Yes. But he wasn't that coherent at the times.
He was just awakening
Yes.
and nodded off again.
Yes.
And at some point, the police officers walked up, correct? Said yes.
Yes.
And then he, you woke him up when the police officers walked up, correct?
Yes.
And so then he was awake.
Yes. You just want me to say yes or no, explain what you want me to do.
Well,
I
explain.
want to explain everything. So when I tried to wake him up, he woke up the second time. I said, Floyd, the police is here. It's about the $20 bill wasn't real. I kept saying, baby, get up. The police was up. So he looked, and we looked to the right, and he had the police. He tapped on the window with a flashlight. And I'm like, Floyd. And so he turned back around again. He's like, what? And I was like, baby, that's the police. Open the door, roll down the window, whatever he told me to do. So he looked back, and when he seen the man had the gun at the window when we looked back to him. So he instantly grabbed the wheel, and he was like, please don't kill me. Please don't shoot me. What did I do? Just tell me what I did. Please don't kill me. Please don't shoot me. And I'm like, Floyd, baby, It's not, you said explain, I'm
I
trying to
did, I
explain
did.
which state he was in, sir.
I did. And I have to ask some questions. So I'm sorry to cut you off, I really am.
It's all right.
But I want to go back and just cover one thing quick, because where were you sitting in the vehicle?
In the back right passenger seat.
Okay. And so when officers came,
Back passenger seat.
were there two officers that came to the vehicle?
Yes,
So one came to the passenger side and one to the driver's side?
yes,
So initially you saw one officer to your right on the passenger side, correct?
no, I was up like in, I'm trying to wake him up, so I'm in the middle, like at the time, when the police were there. That's how I was able to see him too, just, we both looked at the same time.
And when he was, during this time period, coming out from Cup Foods and being in the vehicle,
Mhm.
did he complain of shortness of breath at all?
No,
Did he complain of chest pains at all?
no,
And other than being sleepy or nodding off a little bit, did he seem
no,
abnormal to you in any way?
not at all.
And did he seem startled when the officer pulled a gun on him?
Very.
I have nothing further.
Any further?
Thank you. While you were in the car, or prior to getting in the car, Mr. Floyd appeared to you to be normal, correct?
Yes.
When he got in the car, he fell asleep, correct?
We talked for a while, then he fell asleep.
And then ultimately, you had to make several efforts to
Yes.
try to wake him up.
Yes.
I'm looking for.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. We appreciate you coming in. You are excused.
Thank you.
Here we listen to the testimony there of Shawanda Hill.